There's no delineation for us between the land and ourselves.
Tonight, the Gwich'in vowed to protect their territory against U.S. oil giants.
That's my goal, is to see more and more in the industry.
A Cree fitness trainer inspires others to run with the pack.
They wanted to see more things be done out on the land instead of just in the classroom setting.
And grandmothers prepare to take over as the school year comes to an end. Good evening, I'm Melissa Ridgen. Welcome to APTN National News. The Gwich'in Nation, along with thousands of Canadians, have sent letters to the U.S. regulators opposing oil and gas drilling in an environmentally sensitive area in the Alaska Arctic. Shirley McLean has more.
Gwich'in Nation land transcends northern Alaska, the Yukon, and the Northwest Territories. The Gwich'in people are facing an uphill battle. They are trying to protect the porcupine caribou herd. Their lives depend on it.
This is the last healthy caribou herd left on Earth, and now their fate is being thrown on some kind of gambling table, and the U.S. government wants to start throwing the dice.
The Gwich'in referred to the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge as a sacred place where life begins. It's where the porcupine herd calve. Oil and gas exploration has been banned there since 1980 over concerns about the herd. Last year, U.S. Congress passed the Tax and Jobs Bill. A section would open up the refuge to drilling. The U.S. Bureau of Land Management is tasked with developing an environmental assessment with plans to have land leases available by 2019. Dana Tija Tram is a councillor with the Vuntaq Gwich'in. He says that is too soon.
Usually an environmental impact statement would take about 5 years. Well, they've fast-tracked this process and limited the scoping, so this is a 1-year environmental impact statement for one of the most incredibly fragile areas in the Arctic North.
A call for public comments closed last week. 14,000 Canadians and 500,000 Americans sent in letters opposing drilling.
I can tell you quite honestly that there is no way that they're going to be able to do what they want done in the way that they're doing it and do it right.
Tija Tram says the Gwich'in are up against a tough fight because of strong political support for industry in the U.S., but he says this is a human rights issue. If the porcupine caribou herd declines, so does the food security for the Gwich'in.
Human rights, our environmental rights, are human rights. There's no delineation for us between the land and ourselves, and we don't see that delineation within the rights as well.
He says his people can only hope that the political landscape will move away from oil and gas drilling after the U.S. primary elections in November. Shirley McLean, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
And of course, we would like to hear what you have to say about this or any other story. Here's how you can contact us. Send us an email to news@aptn.ca, like our APTN National News Facebook page, follow us on Twitter @APTN News, or go to our website, aptnnews.ca. Sentencing for one of the teens involved in a beating death of a young Indigenous woman last year began on Monday. 19-year-old Serena McKay's body was found on Gwich'in First Nation in April 2017. Her death shocked the community after the beating was recorded and then posted on social media. One of the girls involved has pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Here's Brittany Hobson with more.
Dolores Daniels told a Winnipeg courtroom she's been living in nightmare since her daughter, Serena McKay, was found beaten to death. During a sentencing hearing, Daniels talked about losing her best friend. "How can my only daughter be replaced?" she said. McKay's body was found outside a home on Gwich'in First Nation in April 2017. The beating was filmed and posted on social media. 2 girls who were 16 and 17 at the time were arrested. The younger of the 2 pleaded guilty to manslaughter in January. The Crown is seeking an adult sentence of 7 years in jail, while defense is asking for a youth sentence of 3 years. The Crown argued the now 17-year-old acted as an adult. She was raised to know right from wrong, taught the difference, and she just didn't do it. Earlier this month, the second teen was sentenced to just over 3 years for her involvement. Sentencing will continue Tuesday morning. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Residential schools played a significant role in a dark and painful chapter of Canada's past. Many of the buildings have been torn down, but there are some that remain standing, and now there are calls to preserve them, to teach future generations about what happened there. Cree takes us to one of the latest residential schools left standing in Saskatchewan.
We're going to let the archaeologist and his team do the work that we asked them to do here.
Located just east of Punashai, along Highway 15, sits this patch of grass and gravel behind the Muskowhegan Indian Residential School. But a closer look reveals it may be an unmarked cemetery.
We don't know who they are right now because it happened probably a good 100 years ago.
With the help of the University of Saskatchewan and University of Alberta,
what the disturbances are.
This team is scanning the ground to see just how many people are buried here, using this piece of equipment that works like a radar to survey the ground.
We've heard from the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation that there may be between 30 and 35 unaccounted for children. Although talking to community, there may be quite a bit more.
Councillor of Muskowhegan, Cynthia Desjardins, says the cemetery may be the resting place for Indigenous children who attended this residential school. The First Nation wants them to be remembered.
To say this is where the graves were.
This burial site is not the only place this team will be scanning. There is also a suspected burial site on the south of the residential school grounds near a group of trees. There is also another suspected burial site just northeast of the residential school on top of a field near the bushes. This is just part of Muskowhegan trying to save the building, as it is the last remaining residential school in Saskatchewan. It has now been added to the National Trust for Canada's 2018 Top 10 Endangered Places list. The National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation is assisting the First Nation in developing this site into a museum.
We've had many people come by, like busloads of tourists from China, Europe, coming by to just look at the school because they hear about the history and they want to see it in its physical form.
The First Nation says they are now in discussion with the provincial and federal governments. Construction to keep the building could cost up to $1 million. Cree, CTV News, Muskowhegan First Nation.
One of Canada's most notorious serial killers has been moved to a maximum security prison in Quebec. Robert Picton was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of 6 women. The remains of 33 were found on his farm. Picton is serving a 25-year life sentence, and Corrections Canada says the reason for the move was that he was being bullied and will have better access to healing programs. Ernie Cree is among the families who were not informed. His sister Dawn Cree was one of the victims.
I'm not a cruel man myself, but quite frankly, I don't give a damn if people are yelling at him, bullying him around a little bit. What's important to me is how my sister's life came to an end. And I can tell you it was probably in the most brutal, imaginable way possible. It's hard for me to work up a lot of sympathy.
A bit of a sigh of relief for Manitoba forest fire evacuees as hundreds of people from the community of Little Grand Rapids are making the journey home after being forced to flee more than a month ago. Over the next 3 days, families are taking flights back to the area before boarding boats or helicopters to their homes. The youngest evacuees and people with health issues will be the last to return, so everything is in place to meet their needs when they arrive. Nearly 1,000 residents have been living in hotels in Winnipeg for the past 4 weeks. Strong storms have punched through Tennessee. Down at the Chattanooga waterfront, people were getting ready to bike, swim, and run in a triathlon, and while people were registering, fierce winds flipped tables and sent tents flying in the air. It created a big mess. No one was hurt, and the race still got underway. Well, we got to take a break, but coming up, a big promotion for a high-ranking Indigenous soldier. But first, here's your weather for Tuesday. Rainy and cool on the rocks. St. John's in at 7, sunshine at 23 in Fredericton. Northern Quebec and Labrador get a lot of cloud and single digits up north, but sunny at 18 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Southern and central Quebec seeing a lot of sunshine, 26 in Rouyn-Noranda, Chibougamau, and Saguenay. Southern Ontario, sunshine in 23s for Toronto and Peterborough. To the north, 24 in the Sioux. Kapuskasing looking at 26, also 26 in Sioux Lookout, but cloudy. Manitoba, hot and humid with showers in Flin Flon and the Pas. Southern Manitoba, 26s and showers in Barons River, Dauphin, and Winnipeg. Saskatchewan, 21 in Saskatoon, 23 in Yorkton and Regina with a mix of sun and clouds. Clouds and 22 in La Ronge and Stony Rapids, 18 in Uranium City and Meadow Lake. Welcome back. Canadian troops based in Ontario have a new commanding officer. A member of the Huron-Wendat Nation took over the 4th Division this weekend. With more on the story, here's Beverly Andrews.
Almost 30 years ago, a young man from Wendoki First Nation near Quebec City enlisted with the Canadian Armed Forces as a reservist. 2 university degrees later, and with his family backing him all the way, Joe Paul joined the regular forces in 1991. Now, he's a brigadier general.
I have my own tribal family, but when you join the Canadian Armed Forces, you are joining another larger family. So I feel like I'm really blessed, i.e., I go back to my community all the time.
Paul has been stationed across Canada. He served in Croatia, Egypt, and Afghanistan. He is now starting a new chapter, being appointed commander of the Canadian Army's largest formation, the 4th Canadian Division in Ontario. Lieutenant General Paul Winnick is commander of the Canadian Army. He says Paul's service is impeccable, and only the best generals in the Canadian Army can command a division.
There's a rich history. There's a connection with that warrior culture of the Indigenous people and the warrior culture that we foster in the Canadian Armed Forces, and it's part of the Indigenous heritage. And once again, it's a true meritocracy. Joe Paul rose to the top and to commanding this division because he was the best officer for the job. We're immensely proud of him.
This post is extra special for the Huron-Wendat people back home. Grand Chief Conrad Suey traveled to Ontario to watch a fellow Huron-Wendat take command.
And to see with my own eyes, with all of our members of the nation, to be here and to congratulate Jocelyn Paul, Commander-in-Chief, for what he did and what he's going to continue to do, representing our nation and our First Nations also with pride and dignity.
The 4th Canadian Division is made up of 13,000 troops. Most of them are stationed in Petawawa and Kingston.
Our ancestors, they were all warriors. And we shall not lose sight of the fact that our ancestors were the one defending Canada, defending the French colony, defending the English colony. Our ancestors played a pivotal role.
Beverly Andrews, APTN National News, Toronto.
Quite the accomplishment. As schools are about to wrap up for this summer, a group of Algonquin grandmothers are setting up a new classroom. It's located 4 hours north of Ottawa, Ontario, on the traditional territory of the Algonquin in Quebec. It's Annette Francis here with this story.
This group of Algonquin grandmothers and helpers are preparing these grounds for a cultural language camp here on traditional Algonquin territory in the La Vérendrye Park. The plan is to bring 30 youth aged 12 to 17 from all 11 Algonquin communities and teach them their mother tongue.
We're building the first wigwam frame. The idea that we had was to have 3 big wigwams. 1 wigwam for the girls where they're going to sleep. The next wigwam will be where the boys are going to sleep, and the other ones will be a place where we're going to be teaching.
Chief says the Anishinaabe Dene project is something the elders from all Algonquin communities have talked about for the past few years.
They wanted to see more things be done out on the land instead of just in the classroom setting, because there was not enough time for students to learn their languages.
Elder Rose Wawadi Bodawe says it's important to start working with the youth now because the Algonquin language is in danger of getting lost.
There's about only 3 communities that really know how to speak their language. It's Rapid Lake and people that live off the territories and Grand Lake, some of them. Same thing with Leximo.
That's why 13 Algonquin grandmothers decided to take action.
They don't know the plant, they all forget everything because they're going to school too much of the white way, but not enough Algonquin. That's what I see.
According to Chief, the curriculum is based on the Anishinaabe Pike Constitution.
We'll be teaching about the land, we'll teach about the water, the trees, the fishes, everything, and some of the solstice ceremonies that comes with it, and rites of passage, if we can fit that all in there.
Anyone wishing to help support the camp can make a donation to the Anishinaabe Denewin Project, which can be found on Facebook. The camp is scheduled to run for 2 weeks, from July 15th to the 29th. And at Francis APTN National News on traditional Algonquin territory.
Natasha Saddleback is a fitness competitor in Alberta, and she wants to see more Indigenous people get fit. Chris Stewart of APTN, of course, found her at a gym.
Pain is gain. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. 2 more. 1 more. 1 more. Push it out. Push it out. Good job.
Natasha Saddleback is used to helping out at the gym, offering training advice or helping to squeeze in a few extra reps. She's been in the fitness industry for 18 years, and she is one of the few Indigenous people who train for fitness competitions. She has competed in 6 over the years and is placed in the top 5. She wants to see more First Nations people get active, to get in better shape, and to even compete like she does.
The more First Nations I see in the health industry, it just the better. Like, it makes me proud to see. And that was kind of that's my goal, is to see more and more in the industry.
Trevor White went to school with Saddleback. He appreciates any training advice she can give him.
Anytime I'm here, she's always willing to help, willing to show me some technique, willing to spot on the benches. Yeah, she's great.
Push out those shoulders. Good job, good job.
Trevor says Saddleback is dedicated to her craft.
See her in and out of the gym whenever I'm coming in the gym. She's always here. It seems like she's living here. So she's a good inspiration.
Getting a competition-level body takes an incredible amount of effort.
I'm working out daily, preparing meals daily, and it's a lot of discipline as far as eating the right things, getting into the gym whether or not you feel like it.
And if you happen to be at Snap Fitness in Wetaskiwin, don't be afraid to ask her for some workout advice. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Wetaskiwin, Alberta.
That exhausts me, just looking at that. We have some incredible video of a church fire in northern New Brunswick. This video was posted to Facebook showing the St. Paul's Catholic Church in Bacca-Raquette engulfed in flames. The stone church was built in the early 1900s. We've got more news to come. Here's the rest of your weather for Tuesday. Stay with us. In northern Alberta, 20 for high level in Fort McMurray, 22 in Fort Chip. To the south, lots of sunshine, 20 degrees in Edmonton. It's been a whirlwind of celebrations to honor National Indigenous Peoples Day. Ashley Branson took in the festivities in a diverse, multicultural Winnipeg elementary school, and she brings us this.
Children arrive at Isaac Brock School to take in another day of learning, but it's not your typical school day. Staff members organized an assembly where students enrolled in the Cree and Ojibwe language program demonstrate different powwow dances. 7-year-old Isabella Ballin is one of the many students participating.
I feel actually pretty good about it, and I like when we powwow dance.
Yeah? Why do you like powwow dance?
Because when I hear the drum, it reminds me of my heartbeat.
Jason Peranto has come to watch his son Carter dance in the powwow. He shares what National Indigenous Peoples Day means to him.
It's an opportunity to help people understand that
we're still here. We're not gone anywhere, and we still have lots to offer to help and contributing to this country.
Recognize the school we attend resides on Treaty 1 land.
The assembly began with a short welcome speech by Principal Melody Wallace-Chuck. Then the dancing began. It started with a grass dance, the jingle dance followed, and the fancy shawl dance. Seven-year-old Carter Peranto is one of the grass dancers. He explains the meaning behind grass dancing.
Well, grass dancers is if you're trying to put a teepee down but the grass is too small, you dance on the grass to flatten it to put your teepee there.
Jason watched proudly as his son danced.
Made me proud because he's doing a lot. He's not afraid. He's helping people learn. He knows who he is.
Learning the Indigenous dances and languages is now part of the curriculum. And parents aren't the only ones that are happy about the children's accomplishments.
It was so amazing to see them. I was so happy. I was just excited. And I felt very proud. I felt very proud of them because they have been working hard and they've been learning, and they're learning the language, and they've been learning the dance, which is, like I said, part of our curriculum.
Ashley Branson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
It hasn't been a great showing thus far for Australia at the World Cup, but perhaps it's because they didn't select this guy for the team.
Off he leaps, he's now on the field.
This kangaroo became a star of a match held Sunday in Canberra. He even took up the goalie's position, stopping a few balls kicked his way. In case you didn't know, the nickname of Australia's national team is the Socceroos. Clearly, they'll want to get in touch with this guy's agent. Well, that is your news for Monday, June 15th. We've got even more for you on the website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Melissa Ridgen, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Good night.